They think I'm a nobody. They don't even realize I'm their host. My name's Danny Marison. I'm 36 years old, and I live in downtown Chicago. I've got an office on the 39th floor with a balcony view of the skyline and Lake Michigan. It's the kind of office people take photos of during tours, the kind I used to dream about while mopping floors. I was standing on that balcony when the message came in. The Marison family barbecue is this Saturday. Don't come. No freeloaders allowed. Rick, my older brother. Same smugness, same barked up the family tree attitude he's always had. I stared at the screen, reading the words again. Then I laughed. Not a loud one. Just the kind that bubbles up when someone throws a punch and misses by a mile. 10 years ago, I'd have broken apart reading that. I'd have felt the heat in my cheeks, the burn in my gut. Back when I was jobless, couch surfing, and trying to figure out how to stretch $20 for a week's worth of food. Back when every family get-together was a chance to remind me I wasn't doing enough, being enough, but not anymore. I looked out at the city, at the gold lettering on the Marison Grand Hotel's rooftop sign gleaming across the street. My hotel, my flagship. Another ping, another message from Rick. Don't embarrass us again. I nearly dropped my phone. I was laughing so hard this time. Embarrass them? These people booked their family event at my hotel and didn't even realize it. The irony was too thick to cut through. The moment I saw the reservation in the system under my assistant's flagged updates, I knew exactly what I was going to do. They still thought of me as Danny the dropout, Danny the flake, Danny the family embarrassment who couldn't make it through school, couldn't hold a real job, couldn't sit through one dinner without someone making a comment about my potential. And now? Now they were about to celebrate at a venue they didn't know I owned. They were about to smile, shake hands, raise glasses, in my ballroom, on my tab, under my roof. All of it signed off by the same man they disowned. I walked back inside, shutting the balcony door behind me, still smiling. Carmen, I called. My assistant popped her head in instantly, tablet in hand. Yes, Mr. Marison? Double-check that reservation for the Marison family event this Saturday. She nodded, already tapping. Still locked in. Ballroom A. They asked for steak, shrimp cocktail, and no kids under 12. Perfect, I said, taking a seat at my desk. Keep it that way. I picked up my phone again and reread the messages. No freeloaders allowed. Don't embarrass us again. I looked at Carmen. Add one more thing. Of course, I want a single table in the center of the ballroom. Just one chair, one spotlight. She raised an eyebrow. You want to attend? I want to host. She smiled slowly. Understood. I leaned back, folding my arms behind my head, and let the satisfaction sink in. They thought I was nothing. They didn't even know they were renting from me. Let them walk in, heads high and judgment ready. Let them talk down to the staff, flex their borrowed watches and fake pearls. Let them forget, once again, who's been holding this family up in silence. Saturday's coming, and this time, I'm not coming to beg. I'm coming to collect. They all thought I was still a washout who dropped out of engineering school at 26. They never asked what happened after that. They didn't care. As far as my family was concerned, the day I walked out of my last lecture was the day I cemented my role as the failure. Rick never let me forget it. Neither did my dad. My mom never said it out loud, but she didn't have to. Her silence during family dinners said enough. And the cousins? They just followed suit. Polite smiles, tight hugs, questions that always danced around the one they wanted to ask. So, what do you actually do now? If they had ever bothered to ask, they'd know. They'd know I took a janitor job at a roadside motel out in Joliet. That I worked nights cleaning puke from bathroom tiles and restocking vending machines while studying the way hotels actually ran. They'd know I kept a notebook, tracking every guest complaint, every staff conversation, every shortcut management took. They'd know that 6 months in, I got promoted to front desk. A year after that, assistant manager. By the end of year 2, I was running the place while the actual manager spent most of his time golfing. They'd know I saved every bonus, every tip. That I took out a loan against my own car to buy a crumbling roadside property just north of Springfield. They'd know I slept in the back office during renovations, showered in the staff locker room, and taught myself how to balance accounts using free online classes. They'd know that place, the dump with the roaches and broken AC, became my first Marison Inn. But they didn't ask, so they didn't know. And now, after 15 locations and over 400 employees, they still called me the disappointment. Mr. Marison, Carmen's voice crackled in over the intercom, pulling me out of the thought. The Marison family confirmed their booking at the Grand for Saturday. Would you like me to invoice them now? I smiled. They'll pay at checkout. Understood. I hung up and looked around my office. Polished walnut desk. A full Chicago skyline stretching across the windows. Diplomas I never earned, replaced by photos of every hotel opening, each one signed by the teams I built. People who didn't care where I went to school, only that I led from the front. My phone buzzed again. A message from Keith, my CFO. Aspen deal closed. $220 million. You're now officially the majority owner of the top resort in the Rockies. I grinned. I used to beg my family to come visit me during holidays. Rick would always say he was too busy. Dad would mumble something about not wanting to leave Chicago. My mom said hotels gave her allergies. Now they were paying me to host their backyard barbecue reunion. I clicked over to the hotel management software and pulled up their event summary. 48 guests. Open bar. Custom catering. 3 security personnel. In the ballroom, ballroom A. My favorite one. I hovered over the notes tab and typed, "Do not mention hotel ownership or management under any circumstance. Staff to treat Mr. Marison as non-attending. All special requests, especially for Rick Marison, are to be documented." I paused, then added, "Let them think I'm not coming." I hit save. People always say success is the best revenge. I disagree. Success is just a foundation. What you build on top of it, that's where the revenge lives. My office door opened a moment later. Dion stepped in 6'4", built like a linebacker, and calm as a monk. "Security detail confirmed for Saturday," he said. "Want us in uniform or plainclothes?" "Plainclothes," I said. "Let them feel comfortable." "Until they shouldn't." He nodded. "Anything else?" "Compile guest profiles. Start with Rick." He raised an eyebrow, then grinned. "On it." As he walked out, I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window. 10 years ago, I walked out of school with nothing but debt and a bruised ego. Now they were paying me to throw a party they didn't want me at, in a building they didn't know I built. Let them drink. Let them toast. Let them think they're the ones who made it. I'll be waiting. And this time, the bill's on me. But so is the lesson. Carmen walked in just after 9, her heels clicking soft against the tile, a navy folder tucked under her arm. "Guest intel," she said, setting it on my desk. "Dion just finished the profiles. Some of them you're going to enjoy." I flipped it open. Clean layout, color-coded tabs, photos clipped to each profile. They looked like job applications, but this wasn't a hiring folder. This was a reckoning file. First one, Aunt Lorna. Hair a little too blonde for her age. Smile always half-loaded with something sharp. Notes from Dion underneath her picture read. Multiple incidents flagged. 2022, luxury suite damage during bachelorette weekend at Marison Bay. Staff reported profanity, refused to pay cleaning fee. 2023, attempted to walk out on minibar charges at Marison Palm. Current behavior note. Known to fake disabilities for early check-in access. "She's bold," I muttered, flipping to the next. Cousin Marcus. Wide shoulders, cheap suit, self-styled entrepreneur who hadn't had a stable job in 15 years. His profile was thicker than I expected. Flagged incidents. Harassed front desk manager at Marison Ridge over a room upgrade. Berated catering staff at Marison Lakeview during wedding rehearsal dinner. Known alias on Yelp. Gourmet Dude 44, left 10 one-star reviews across Marison properties. Carmen gave a small smirk. "Dion said he's on our blacklist, but since the family booking didn't list him by name, the system didn't catch it. He'll slip up," I said, flipping to the next. Uncle Ray. I didn't even finish the summary. The first line read, 3 internal reports from different Marison locations citing verbal threats and inappropriate remarks to female employees. I closed the folder for a second, just to breathe. It wasn't just me they had treated like garbage all these years. They had been walking into my hotels and treating my people like they didn't matter, like they were servants instead of staff. And all the while, they had no clue they were spitting on the empire I built. Only one tab was marked in green. I flipped to it. Melissa Marison. Age 34. Teacher. Single mom. No flags. No incidents. Note. Only family member who has ever stayed at Marison Properties under her own name and left a positive review. Tip left for cleaning crew. $40 with handwritten note. I smiled. Mel. She was the only one who had ever stuck by me when I dropped out. When I got the janitor job, she sent me a text that just said, "Every empire starts with dirt under the nails. Keep going." She never asked for anything. Never judged. When I bought my second property and called her crying in the middle of the night because the pipes burst and the bookings got canceled, she stayed on the phone until I calmed down. And now, she was still the only one who saw me for who I was, not who I used to be. My phone buzzed just then. Her name flashed on the screen. "Mel, you really going to let them party in your empire?" I smiled and typed back. "Me. Trust me. I've got something planned." "Mel, should I bring popcorn or bail money?" "Me. Both. Maybe bring a camera too." I looked back down at the folder, then grabbed a pen and jotted one note across the front in thick black ink. "Let them walk in. Let them feel safe. Then show them who they've been insulting." Carmen was still watching me, waiting. "Prep Dion," I said. "Saturday. I want security type but invisible. No interference unless someone crosses a line." "Understood." "Also, yes, Make sure every staff member working that event gets a bonus. They're about to deal with a lot of smug." She nodded, scribbling the notes. "Anything else?" "Yeah," I said, flipping the folder closed. "Have the ballroom lights rewired. I want full spotlight control from the booth." Carmen's brow arched. "This going to be one of those dramatic walk-in moments?" "No," I said, standing up and reaching for my old maintenance badge from the drawer. "It's going to be a moment they never forget, because they think they're the stars of this party. They don't realize they're the guests of honor at their own intervention, and I've got the receipts to prove it." I opened the back of my closet and reached for the box. It was buried under suits and dry-cleaned jackets I hadn't worn in years. The suits were tailored, high-end, the kind you wear when closing multi-million-dollar deals or cutting ribbons in front of new hotels. But the box, that was different. It was plain, dusty, taped shut like I was afraid of what might crawl out. I pulled it down, set it on the edge of the bed, and peeled it open. There it was, my old uniform, dark gray coveralls, heavy-duty fabric, one front chest pocket. The stitching was still tight, the buttons still intact. I'd had it pressed and boxed the day I left that first janitor job. Couldn't explain why back then. Just felt like I needed to keep it. Beneath the uniform, I found the ID badge, bent on the edges, slightly cracked where it had been clipped to my collar every shift. Daniel Marison, Facilities Crew, Southview Motor Inn. My picture stared back at me, 26 years old, thinner, tired, but proud in a way that still hit me in the gut. That was the version of me they all laughed at. That's who they kicked out of the family barbecue 10 years ago. Showed up late, still in my uniform after a double shift, and Rick turned me away at the gate with a joke about not bringing the help. I sat down on the bed and held the badge in my hand for a minute, just breathing. My phone buzzed. Mel, you still going through with it?" I took a photo of the badge and sent it back. "Me, what do you think?" A second later she called. I picked up. "You sure about this?" she asked, her voice low and careful. "It's still family." I didn't answer right away, just looked at the uniform lying flat across the box like it had been waiting all these years. "They stopped being family," I said finally, "the day they kicked me out for working with my hands." She sighed on the other end. "Yeah, I figured you'd say that." There was silence for a few seconds, the kind that only happens between two people who've lived through the same war. "I'll be there early," she said, "in case you want backup." I smiled. "Thanks, Mel." After we hung up, I stood and stepped into the uniform. It still fit. A little snug in the shoulders maybe, but it fit. The fabric felt stiff after all this time, but familiar, like armor. I clipped the ID badge to my chest and looked in the mirror. I didn't see a janitor. I saw a man who built something from the floor up. A man who cleaned bathrooms, fixed leaky ceilings, and turned one shitty roadside inn into a national brand. I saw every overnight shift, every missed holiday, every insult I swallowed just to survive. I saw a man who knew the difference between being rich and being respected. And I knew exactly how I wanted them to see me on Saturday. Not in a tailored suit, not with cameras and speeches, not with bodyguards and fanfare, but as the version of me they disowned, the one they thought they could bury with shame. Let them walk past me without recognizing who I am. Let them talk about me like I'm still mopping floors. Let them laugh, because when the spotlight hits, and it will, they won't be looking at a man who used to clean their mess. They'll be looking at the man who now owns the floor they're standing on. And this time, I won't be knocking on the gate. I'll be holding the keys. Saturday came. The sun broke through the clouds around noon, and by 3 o'clock the Marison Grand Hotel was buzzing. Families checked in. Valets dashed back and forth. Kids pressed their faces to the glass elevators. Staff stood poised, dressed sharper than the guests they were welcoming. From my suite, I watched it all on the security feed. "Ballroom?" I asked, sipping my coffee. Dion's voice came through the earpiece. "Setup is complete. One table, one chair, one overhead spotlight. Centered like you asked. And guest arrival?" He chuckled. "It's already a show. Aunt Lorna's trying to sweet-talk her way into early check-in. Marcus is complaining about the lobby music being too generic." I smiled. "And Rick, yelling at the concierge. Something about the valet guy moving his car seat. He's using that tone. You know, the one where he pretends he's doing you a favor by being mad." "Of course he is." I switched screens. The camera feed flipped to the lobby. Right on cue, my parents walked in. Dad, stiff as ever, wearing his old brown blazer like it was custom-tailored Armani. Mom had on a pearl necklace she used to keep locked in a velvet box, and I knew for a fact it was rented. She liked to borrow things that made her feel like someone else. They walked like they owned the place, like royalty returning to a palace they forgot didn't belong to them. From my angle, I saw it all. The false charm, the tight smiles, the way they handed their coats to the staff without saying a word. No thank yous, no eye contact. Just entitlement wrapped in perfume and cologne. Let them get comfortable, I said. Dion replied, copy that. The feed split again, showing the main hallway outside the ballroom. A staff member handed Rick a clipboard to confirm the event name. Family of Rick Marison, he said loudly, like he wanted the chandelier to hear it. That's us. I zoomed in slightly. He was grinning, proud, like he was walking into a place that would elevate him just by being in it. He didn't know the floor he was walking on was mine. Back at the front desk, Aunt Lorna had her sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Can someone get my bags? She asked. I'm not used to waiting. Carmen buzzed in from the concierge desk. Danny, do you want us to notify them of anything? Give a heads up. Nope, I said, standing and buttoning the collar of my gray uniform. Let them walk into it. I stepped out of the suite and headed to the staff elevator. On the ride down, I looked at myself in the mirrored panel. Same gray uniform, same badge, same name, Daniel Marison, pinned right where they used to spit on it. No CEO title, no fanfare, just the man they threw away, back where they left him. The elevator doors opened on the service floor behind the ballroom. I slipped through the corridor like I had so many years ago in other hotels. Quiet, invisible, always watching. Dion met me at the utility entrance to the ballroom. They're inside, he said. Photographers already snapping pictures. They love it in there. Perfect, I said. Give it 10 minutes. And then dim the lights, I said, adjusting my badge. And bring the show to life. He smiled, not asking for more. Back on the cameras, I saw Rick at the bar, giving drink orders like he owned stock in the place. My dad sat near the head table, his hands clasped like he was attending a gala. My mom pointed to the decor like she'd picked it herself. They looked so comfortable, so proud. They had no idea they were standing on a stage. And the spotlight? That was just waiting for me. Let them toast to themselves. Let them laugh. Because soon, the lights would dim, the music would stop, and they'd finally meet their host, the man they disowned, the man who owns the room. I walked back to the control room just behind the ballroom wall, earpiece still in, uniform zipped up to my throat. From the little slit in the curtain, I could see them, every last one of them. My mother leaned in to whisper something to my aunt, both of them laughing like high school girls at the popular table. Rick was at the bar again, waving his hands, making some big point about business or real estate. He always said real estate, like he actually knew what it meant. My dad was doing his usual stiff smile, nodding at everyone like a senator on campaign. They were glowing, smug, ignorant, perfect. I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat, the same one I hadn't texted in 2 years. The last message had been from Rick. Can someone bring more beer to the lake house next time? And tell Danny to stop showing up uninvited. I typed slowly, deliberately. Me. Enjoy the Marison Grand. The service is top-notch. I hit send. Dion's voice came through my earpiece 10 seconds later. They're checking their phones. Then the replies started rolling in. Rick, as if you'd know. Aunt Lorna, stay out of the pictures. Dad, this group chat is for family only. That was all I needed. I nodded at Dion through the mirror. Begin phase 1. He spoke into his mic, front desk. Cancel all their reservations. Quietly. Owner's orders. Up at reception, Carmen was already ready. The Marison family's 6 booked rooms were erased from the system in under 2 minutes. No drama. Just vanished. She flagged each one with a VIP override hold status. No one could check in. Not even staff could reverse it. The front desk phone buzzed almost immediately. Carmen answered calmly. Yes, I'm sorry, ma'am. It seems there's been an error with your reservation. My earpiece lit up again. Uncle Ray's at the counter yelling. Says he had the suite with the lake view. Tell him the owner reviewed the booking personally, I said, walking toward the ballroom entrance, and made a judgment call. Carmen relayed it word for word. I watched on the feed as his face turned a deep red, finger wagging at the poor kid behind the desk. But the moment Dion stepped up behind him, hands folded, stance wide, Uncle Ray backed off. Inside the ballroom, Rick was still oblivious. My cousin's fiancée, Katie, stepped out for a moment to check in. The second she hit the counter and heard the news, her face crumpled. I saw her run back inside and whisper something to Marcus. He turned and looked around like he just realized the cameras were on. Then Dad got a call. I saw him fumble his phone, put it to his ear, and freeze. He stood up, walked out. Mom followed. They came back in 2 minutes later looking like someone had stolen the floor out from under them. That's when the whispers started. What's going on? They said our rooms are gone. Gone? Like, canceled. Rick finally noticed something was off. What the hell is this? He barked to no one in particular. We booked this place. I confirmed it myself. He stormed to the nearest staff member, pointing a finger. Get me your manager. Right now. I pressed my mic. Dion. I'm on it. Dion entered through the ballroom door like a ghost in a tux. Calm, smiling. I'm told you'd like to speak to the owner, he said to Rick, voice smooth as glass. Rick squared up, still puffed up with that big brother energy. Yeah, you could say that. Whoever's running this dump just canceled our entire stay. Dion nodded. He's aware. In fact, he personally approved it. Rick blinked. What? Owner's orders, Dion said again. There's been a revision to the guest list. Rick looked like he was trying to figure out what that even meant. Is this some kind of joke? No, sir. In fact, Dion stepped closer. The owner will be making a grand appearance shortly. He stepped back, nodded toward the booth where I stood hidden, and let the silence settle in the room like dust. I clicked the dimmer from the control panel. The ballroom lights dropped low. Only the overhead spotlight remained. One table, one chair, empty, waiting. Let them squirm. Let them whisper. Let them wonder who this mysterious owner was and why he just kicked them out of their own party. Because the real blow hadn't landed yet. It was still waiting, right behind the ballroom door. And I was about to walk through it. The ballroom doors opened with a soft click. No announcement, no music, just the quiet creak of heavy wood and the faint sound of my boots on marble. Every head turned. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Wine glasses froze halfway to mouths. Even the DJ cut the background music, unsure what to do. All eyes landed on me, gray uniform, steel-toed boots, old ID badge clipped to my chest. Daniel Marison, facilities crew. At first, no one recognized me. Rick blinked, then squinted. My mom's mouth dropped open. Aunt Lorna let out this high-pitched half-laugh, like she was trying to decide if I was part of the entertainment. Who the hell? Marcus muttered. But my dad knew. His jaw tightened, eyes narrowing like he was looking into sunlight. And then Mom whispered it. Danny. I didn't respond. I just walked, slow and steady, toward the single chair under the spotlight. The rest of the room sat in shadows now, just one glowing circle on that stage of a ballroom. I stopped at the table and laid down the manila folder I'd been holding since the elevator ride down. Rick took a step forward, confused. What is this, man? Are you working here now? Still, I said nothing. I pulled the chair back, sat down under the light, and opened the folder. A small click echoed as I snapped the metal prongs into place. Then I started reading. Page 1. August 14th, 2021. Marison Ridge Resort. Complaint logged by guest. Richard Marison. Staff are too slow. You people work for me. Act like it. Rick's face twitched. Wait. What is this? I flipped to the next page. July 2nd, 2022. Marison Bay Hotel. Staff report. Marcus E. Verbally aggressive. Demanded free upgrade. Called employee a minimum wage muppet. Marcus's mouth dropped. Hold up. That's not it. Quiet, Dion said from the back wall. He wasn't smiling anymore. I turned to the next page. May 5th, 2023. Marison Lakeview. Incident log. Lorraine, Aunt Lorna, attempted early check-in with fabricated medical excuse. Staff noted alcohol on breath. Room left in severe disarray. Minibar emptied. Refused charges. Aunt Lorna gasped. How dare. I looked up for the first time. Funny, isn't it? I said, my voice calm. All this time you thought I was beneath you. You walked into hotels you didn't realize were mine. Talked to employees I trained. Cursed at managers I mentored. Left trash in rooms I renovated with my own hands. No one spoke. You thought I disappeared. Thought I failed. But I was watching you. Every step. Every visit. Every little tantrum. My mom stepped forward, her voice trembling. Danny. Honey. We didn't know. I smiled flat, humorless. Exactly. Rick finally found his voice again. Louder now. Okay. This is crazy. You had us brought here just to what? Rub something in our faces? No, I said. You brought yourselves here. Paid good money to throw a party in my hotel. You just didn't know you were renting from the guy you spent a decade calling a failure. I stood up, folder still in hand. You called me a freeloader. A disappointment. You laughed when I dropped out. Called me maintenance boy behind my back. You said I embarrassed you. I looked at Rick. And now you're standing in a room you don't own, built on a floor you don't deserve, facing a man you tried to erase. Rick's voice cracked. You think wearing the janitor suit makes you better than us now? No, I said. It reminds me who I am. And it reminds me who you were to me when I wore it. The room was still, heavy with silence. Then Dion stepped into the light. He looked at me. No, sir. I nodded once. He turned to the room. Ladies and gentlemen, the owner of Marison Hospitality has concluded his remarks. The air shifted. Whispers filled the space like a rising tide. He owns the hotel? No way. Danny? Built this? And then, slowly, I stepped out of the spotlight, folder under my arm, leaving the chair behind. Let them sit with it. Let them feel it. Not anger. Not revenge. Just truth. The same truth they ignored for years. I built this. They walked in thinking I was the help. Now they'd leave knowing I was the one who hired it. I didn't yell. Didn't throw a tantrum. Didn't need to. Because the truth? It didn't require volume. It just needed to be heard. I turned around, still holding the folder in one hand, and nodded toward Dion. He stepped up beside me, towering over the room with calm authority. This hotel does not tolerate abuse. Not to its staff. Not to its guests. Not even from its so-called VIPs. And with that, I placed the folder on the table under the spotlight and opened it wide, page after page spilling out for everyone to see. Rick stepped forward, squinting. "These are guest records?" he asked, his voice shaking now. "No," I said. "These are receipts." I took a breath and looked at each of them. One by one, I documented every insult, every tantrum, every moment you treated my people like garbage. I didn't compile these to shame you. I compiled them to show you something. Rick scoffed. "To show us what? That you've been spying on us?" "No," I said, walking slowly around the table. "To show you that the man you dismissed, mocked, and cut out of your lives built something real. Something that didn't require your approval. And now, you're inside it." Aunt Lorna's lip curled. "So what? You're punishing us because we weren't nice enough to the waitstaff?" "No," I said. "I'm punishing you because you never learned how to respect people. Not when they served you. Not when they cleaned your rooms. Not even when they were your own blood." I turned to my mom, who was trying not to cry, her hands gripping her purse like a lifeline. "Do you remember what you said when I told you I got my first janitor job?" She blinked, stunned. "Danny, you said, at least don't tell anyone." "It's embarrassing." I let that hang. "But you know what's really embarrassing? Walking into a hotel you think is too good for your own son, only to find out he owns it." Rick had had enough. "You've made your point," he snapped. "So what now? You gonna kick us out? In front of everyone?" I turned and looked at Dion. "Yes." Rick stepped back like I'd slapped him. "You're joking." "No," Dion said. "We're not." He raised a hand. 2 more security staff appeared at the double doors. Silent, composed, no drama. "Wait, what are you doing?" Marcus said, backing away. "We're family." I nodded. "Exactly. And that's why you've been allowed to get away with this garbage for so long. But not anymore." "You canceled our rooms?" my father asked, rising from his seat with a clenched jaw. "I canceled you," I said flatly. "This event?" "Canceled too." There was a beat of stunned silence. Then Dion gestured toward the doors. "If you'll follow us, we'll escort you out of the building." "You've got to be kidding me," Aunt Lorna shouted, stumbling over her heels as she tried to gather her things. "You can't treat family like this." I didn't even look at her. Rick stormed toward me. "You think this makes you powerful? You think this makes you better than us?" I leaned in, just enough that only he could hear me. "No, Rick, I think it makes me free." His jaw twitched, but he didn't swing. He didn't scream. Because for the first time in his life, he realized he had no control here. One by one, they were led toward the exit. My mother cried softly. My father kept his head down. Marcus muttered under his breath, but didn't argue. Even Rick, for all his bluster, followed the path Dion set like a disgraced politician exiting a press conference. And I just stood there, arms folded, back straight, calm, because this wasn't revenge. It was correction. They hadn't just underestimated me. They had disrespected the very values I built this place on. So now, I was raising the standard. No more exceptions, not even for them, especially not for them. That night, after the ballroom had been cleared, after the lights came back on and the staff started packing up the untouched catering trays, I went back up to my suite. I peeled off the gray uniform slowly, folding it like it deserved respect, which it did. It was the symbol they had laughed at, and the one I used to burn their pedestal down. I poured myself a drink and stepped out onto the balcony. 39 floors up. Chicago glittered below me like nothing had happened. People walking, taxis buzzing, lives moving forward. I stood in the quiet, the city humming beneath my feet, and I felt light. Not giddy, not smug, just free. A knock came at the suite door. I turned, half expecting Dion, maybe Carmen. It was Mel. She didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped inside and set a paper bag on the kitchen counter. Burgers, fries, and a 6-pack. "You all right?" she asked, her voice calm. I nodded once. "Better than ever." She leaned back against the counter, cracking open a beer. "You sure?" she asked. "Because you just went full Godfather on the entire bloodline." I smiled. "Yeah, I'm sure." My phone buzzed for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. Then again, and again. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. "Rick, what the hell is wrong with you? After everything? You should be ashamed. Mom, you humiliated us. You broke this family. Dad, your ego is out of control. Fix this before it's too late. Aunt Lorna, I've never been treated like this in my life. You'll regret this. Marcus, you're nothing without money. That's all you'll ever be." Mel watched me scroll through the chaos. "You gonna answer?" "Nope." I tossed the phone face down on the counter. They can scream into the void all they want. I'm not answering. She raised her beer toward me. To the void. We clinked bottles and sat on the balcony, watching the night roll in. The next morning, I woke up to headlines. Maintenance man turned mogul humiliates family with silent power move. Hotel tycoon reveals hidden identity during family event gone wrong. CEO pulls off the pettiest and most polite revenge of the year. Photos were everywhere. My old ID badge under that spotlight. Rick's face mid-explosion. Aunt Lorna with her jaw hanging open. Me, in the background, calm and collected. I didn't speak to any reporters. I didn't post online. I didn't need to. The world was already doing the talking. A week later, a letter came in the mail. Thick envelope. Handwritten return address. My dad. I opened it slowly. Inside, a formal letterhead from the family firm. Carter and Marison Holdings. Fancy logo. Too much gold foil. Danny, we'd like to offer you a seat on the board. Let's rebuild. We think it's time to bring the family back together. Your father. There was no apology. Just an offer. Like they were doing me a favor. I laughed. Genuinely, deeply laughed. Then I slid the old uniform into a clean box, tucked in the letter, and added a small note on top. I build the buildings. You rent from me now. I sealed the box and mailed it back. No return address. No explanation. Just silence. Because I didn't need them to understand. I needed them to remember. They offered me a seat at the table, but I already owned the damn table. And from now on, they could stand. I added a new policy at Marison Hospitality the following Monday. It wasn't about pricing or logistics or anything shareholders cared about. It was about people. Promotions are open to all staff. No degree required. Just grit, respect, and results. I posted it company-wide with a short note. Everyone starts somewhere. Even the CEO started in coveralls. The response was overwhelming. Emails poured in from night shift janitors, front desk clerks, maintenance techs, people who'd spent their lives invisible. Not anymore. At the downtown location, someone printed the message and taped it to the staff breakroom wall. Next to it, they pinned a photo of me under that ballroom spotlight, in full uniform, badge and all. They weren't laughing. They were inspired. I didn't ask them to tell my story, but they did. And it spread. Through training videos, new hire orientations. Across every property we owned, the tale became a quiet rallying cry. The founders started on the floor, and every floor since is built with respect. I never made it a big thing. No billboards, no commercials, just a walk attic every year. One night a year, I put the old uniform back on. Not for show, for grounding. I'd walk the halls of one of our hotels, never the same one twice, and talk to whoever was working the late shift. No cameras, no announcements, just a man in a gray uniform asking how their shift was going. Some recognized me, some didn't. The best conversations happened when they didn't. That's when I saw who they were underneath the job. The way people once failed to see me. One bellhop in Detroit told me he wanted to open a sandwich shop. I connected him with our food services director. He runs 2 stores now. A night cleaner in Phoenix said she wanted to move to front desk, but didn't think she'd qualify. I got her enrolled in our training track. She's now a hotel manager in Vegas. Every story mattered, because every story was a reminder. I didn't build Marison Hospitality just to prove my family wrong. I built it to prove people like us could rewrite the script. Not everyone loved it, of course. The Marison family hasn't held another event in a major venue since. Word travels in this business. So does respect. When you burn bridges with the owner, you end up eating cold cuts in someone's backyard tent. I heard Rick tried booking under an alias once. Richard Mason. Carmen flagged it before it even hit the system. I didn't block it. I let it sit unconfirmed until the date passed. Petty? Maybe. But dignity takes practice. Mel still comes by the office once a month. We talk shop, laugh at old times, swap gossip about who's tried to crawl back. We never talk about that night in the ballroom. We don't need to. The spotlight did the talking. And in a way, it still does. Because every time a new hire puts on a gray uniform, someone eventually points to a photo, a story, a memory. That's the founder. Started with a mop and a broken batch. Now he runs it all. That's the legacy. Not money, not revenge. Just proof that the man they threw away became the standard. And the uniform they mocked became more powerful than any suit.